Hello everyone and welcome to Late Night Lies. And tonight's lie is we're doing all that we can to prevent mental illness. Before you say hello to the darkness of sleep and good night to old friends, I'm Dr. Caroline Heim and this is Dr. Christian Heim on piano. We've come to talk to you again about a vision planted in your brain, a lie. The current dystopia, restlessly walking alone. People talking but without speaking. People listening but without hearing. People in social media chambers that echo in the sounds of silence. Silence grows like a cancer and leaves you disturbed. Well, what was all that about?
A song. A beautiful song, but also a protest song that captures a lot about the lie that we want to talk to you about tonight.
Yes. So why does it? And tell us about the music.
Tell me about the music?
Yes.
All right. This music, Sounds of Silence, big hit for Disturbed about 5 years ago. Big hit for Simon and Garfunkel. In 1964 is when it was written.
Yeah.
And Art Garfunkel said it spoke of people not being able to communicate. And that was almost 60 years ago. So our society has gone more and more in the direction of not being able to communicate with each other, people being alone, walking streets alone, people not listening. And our society has only become more and more like this, and it's bad for our mental health.
It is, it most definitely is. And that's what we're going to be talking about, preventative mental health. But tell us more about the music. We want to hear about the music.
The music.
And how it does that.
The music.
Actually, let me just fix your collar first.
My collar?
Yeah.
My collar is now fixed. Just like our doggy. Okay.
Oh no!
D minor is
Go
what
ahead.
Paul Simon wrote the music in. And our D minor is a key of the supernatural, the other world, something deathly about it. Think Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, the graveyard scene in Mozart's Don Giovanni, Mahler's Third Symphony, even his First Symphony, all in D minor. Of course, when Disturbed did it, they cranked it up to F sharp minor, so they lost that whole symbolism, but they gave it more power.
Yes, power.
All right, music, as you know, is the language of the emotions. And I just want to explain a little bit about how that happens. D minor is a minor key, and so it kind of depicts sad emotions. And the interplay between sad emotions in the minor key and happy emotions in a major key gives us the whole range of emotions that we have in music, just like our own emotions basically derive from pleasure and painful sensations to give us the kind of emotions that we all experience. So when Paul Simon is talking about Hello Darkness, it's in the minor key. So it kind of feels sad, and we know that there's a sadness and grief to this song.
Yeah, it feels
But then
that way.
he talks about my old friend. Friend's a good, happy sort of a thing, so he goes to a major chord. I've come to talk to you, but we're talking to darkness and silence. So we're back to a minor key. So through all of this, there is beautiful word painting which encaptures the lyrics through the music, and that's what makes a really good song.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, so
You're
you were
welcome.
talking about speaking to silence.
I was.
Okay, and we don't want to be speaking to silence. So
Hello.
welcome, welcome, old friends and new. Yes, we don't want to be speaking to silence in our very first pod show.
No.
So please write. Please, no, never okay.
Okay.
Let me get this out. Please say hello. We don't want to be speaking into a void, so please say hello in the chat on your computer. Say hi, tell us one word about how you're feeling. We would love to hear from you and welcome you to this pod show. So today we're going to be talking about our lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's say, whoa, we almost didn't get this on.
We almost didn't.
Okay.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
sort of like anything that could go wrong this morning, today, did. It felt like everything was against us.
This week, actually.
Murphy's Law.
Yeah, okay.
Now, Murphy's Law doesn't say that bad things will happen. It says whatever can happen will happen.
Yeah. Oh, there's some people there. Hello. Wonderful. Great to have some people here.
Okay,
Sorry, yeah.
okay.
But it did happen.
Where was that quote from?
Where was that? Will you tell me?
Murphy's Law.
Yeah, tell me.
Murph.
Oh, Murph. Interstellar. Guess what we've got coming up a bit later for those Interstellar fans? We've got some Interstellar music. So we are going to have a lot more music.
Yes, we are.
Yes, of
Yes,
course.
we are.
Of course, from Interstellar. I thought you originally came from Murphy.
Murphy. Kind of.
Okay, all right then. So let's get stuck into talking about our pod show a little bit, hey?
Our pod show.
Yeah.
All right. What is a pod show?
Well, it's kind of in between a podcast, which is just talking, and a live show. So we didn't want to call it a podcast because it's just chat, and you don't get to see people and it's not live. And then we love doing live shows, so we decided to
We decided
do the
to be
live thing.
two peas in a pod show.
Well, that's a little bit corny,
I'm
Christian.
sorry.
It's kind of like your dad jokes, actually.
Oh, okay.
Anyway. Okay, so yeah, it's a pod show. Actually, but why? Tell them a little bit about yourself. Why are you playing piano?
Because I got a piano here.
Yeah, well, apart from that, what's your background in
Okay.
piano?
Right, so before I became a doctor and before I specialised in psychiatry, I was a lecturer at a university.
Yeah.
And I lectured in musical composition and history, and I decided to keep piano playing because it feels so good.
Yes, but now you are a psychiatrist.
I am now a psychiatrist and specifically a psychotherapist,
Okay.
where I use talking therapies much more than I use medication
Okay.
to help people keep well.
And why do you use those talking therapies more than medication? Tell me.
Well, I actually believe because they work.
Okay.
They work. When people make changes in their lives and look at what they can do for themselves,
Yeah.
they can transform their lives.
Okay.
And that's part of what we're going to be talking about today. But
Yes.
before we do that, let's hear a little bit about you.
Okay.
You're going to be performing today. Where does this performative side of you originate?
Well, you know.
It was just a question.
But there are people
for
here, so I
out
get to
there.
tell people.
That's right. That's
okay,
that's
so
right.
I did study acting in New York City and worked on the New York stages and other capital cities for about 7 years, I think.
About
all
7
up.
years, okay.
Yeah.
And what do you do now?
Now, though, I am a lecturer in theatre at a university in Australia, but I guess that's called a professor in the United States because we have a lot of US viewers
Yes.
At the moment. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's a professor.
Yes.
Yeah, so I teach theatre history, acting.
And you've called this Late Night Lies.
Yes, late night lies. Yes, let's talk about that, okay? Lies. Why lies? Let's talk about lies. Lies of our society, because that's what our whole pod show is going to be about. And we've got our first lie tonight, but let's talk about lies in general. You're actually rather fixated on lies, I must say.
Yes, I do have this fixation on lies. It all began about 15 years ago when I wrote this book called Lies of Our Society.
Yeah.
And guess what it talked about? Things that were going wrong in society.
Yeah.
And I tried to get it published, and the book publisher said, no, nobody wants to hear about what goes wrong in our society.
Nobody.
We just care about the good stuff. Just give us the good news. Forget about all that bad stuff and just pretend that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Well, our society has changed and people now care. And why I particularly care about lies is because lies are bad for our mental health. And there are things that people can do to prevent mental illness in their lives And most people don't know about it. So that's what this show is really all about.
Yeah, and we are in what's considered a post-truth age now too. So what does that mean, and are there still lies? And obviously there are lies, but we're going to really pull all of that apart as we go each week. Well, we are. You are. I'm going to ask you about those things. Yeah.
That's a lie.
Not.
It's not? Okay, good. Thank goodness.
Okay, let's just jump straight into the actual lie for today, which is we're doing what we can to prevent mental illness. And notice that we didn't actually say we're doing what we can for mental illness. Lie. That's not the lie. The lie is we're doing what we can to prevent mental illness, and that's a lie. So it's in that word prevent.
Yeah.
Tell us about prevention then.
About prevention?
Yeah.
What about prevention?
Come on, you're a psychiatrist.
Okay, all right. So prevention is actually really important, particularly in mental health. Years ago, I heard a very wise psychiatrist lecture, and he basically said to us that it's not good enough for us psychiatrists to be treating mental illness. We have to be preventing it from happening in the first place.
Yeah.
Because there are some sad stats out there, and mental illness is just rising and rising and rising. And so it'd be good to do what we can to make sure that people don't get a mental health problem in the first place. That's what prevention is. Stop it before it happens.
Just stop right now. That's it. Stop.
Stop that mental illness stuff. And it's not as easy as in other areas of medicine.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll talk about heart disease. Because in heart disease, we know what the risk factors are. And I'll take one of those risk factors, smoking.
Yeah.
And we actually went on an ad campaign to get people to change their attitude about smoking. So smoking in the 60s went from something cool and likable and a lot of people doing it.
Yes.
Don't do that.
No, I don't.
To something which, generally speaking, is uncool, disgusting, and a lot fewer people do that. And because of that, we have a lot less of an incidence of heart disease due to smoking.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the thing about that is that to smoke or not to smoke is the question that people need to ask themselves, and they get to make a choice about that. In mental health issues, there is so much more that you can do with your intention and choice. And a lot of people are not aware of what they can do. And there are things in our very society that we can actually change. So the power is with you, the individual.
Okay.
You can actually make choices that are good for your mental health.
Okay, so you said there's things in society that are causing this, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on, tell us about them. I want to know what those things are.
Okay. I'll talk about two.
And they're obviously lies.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so
we're being fed.
Yeah, it's not so much a lie as in how society has progressed.
Okay, all right then. So explain.
Okay, so I will talk about how we've traded our family's love for likes on a computer. How we've traded our friendship circle for virtual friends. How we've traded a community that would know us, let's say in a small town, for living in a sea of strangers.
Yeah.
And the stats show that more of us are living alone than ever before. So the typical thing is living alone in a large city rather than living in a house somewhere in a small town where people know you. So let's say John Boy Walton wants to go seek his fame and fortune.
I don't know who John Boy Walton is.
That's a reference to a 70s show about life in 30s.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And he had a family and a circle of friends and a whole community waiting there for him, and he could take that for granted.
Yes.
We are no longer able to take that for granted because we all are out seeking our fortune, seeking our fame. Nothing wrong with that, but we're actually saying goodbye to and even destroying our family structures, our friendship circles, and this sense of community where we feel like everybody knows us. So we're all not all, but most of us are living in a sea of strangers rather than a sea of familiar faces where you feel at home.
Yeah.
And that's bad for a couple of brain chemicals,
Okay.
oxytocin and serotonin in particular.
And they're the happy brain chemicals.
They're part of the happy brain chemicals, and we'll talk more about that.
Okay, all right. So
Some of the time.
Okay.
But that's the first lie. Because we're more mobile, because we're more ambitious, because we want to get out there and do things, we actually leave the security of family love, friendship love, and a community where we're known and we're known.
Okay. So, and what else is there?
Number
You were
two?
saying, yeah, number 2.
Okay. Screen technology.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a big one.
Okay, so we're down on screen technology at the moment, but let's face it, we love screen technology. So I want to take you through a little bit of a history of screen technology, the big picture, to show you what's actually happening.
Okay.
All right, we have been enjoying and battling screen technology for about 120 years now. Okay, so 120 years ago, we invented film. And some of the big cities had cinemas and we could go and enjoy movies. Wonderful. Then they started to talk. Wonderful. Then in the 1920s and 1930s, it would be like each town would have its own huge hall where people would go together to see the news. Do you remember when we lived in a small town on the south coast of New South Wales?
Yes.
And they had these huge halls.
Yes.
Okay. And they weren't torn down because small town real estate values didn't go up that much.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of small towns that still had these huge halls.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And the whole town used to go there every week to watch the news.
The news.
Yeah, yeah. And so everybody got to see each other. You got to talk about the news. It was a very
Yeah.
community.
It was social. It's a social scene.
Were you there?
No,
1930s.
definitely wasn't.
I didn't think so because I didn't see you there. Okay, let's go on
Yes,
to
please.
about the 1950s.
Yeah.
1950s screen technology got smaller. Television. Now it's in every household, in the living room. Before, technology was really big in the cities. Then it got a little bit smaller and it's in the small towns. Now it's in your living room and it's even smaller. And everybody enjoys television. But then people argue as to what channel to watch, what not to watch. Okay, we buy a few of these. What happens? People are getting segregated, all right? We're getting more and more alone. Come to the 1980s and we have the personal computer.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, we can
Yeah,
do
amazing.
more entertainment. But now it's even smaller and you can take it to your bedroom. So you can be all alone with this computer.
Yeah.
Let's wind forward further to the start of this century, the 2000s, and all of a sudden you can watch movies on something really small and you can take it with you and you can interact with it, and now it's not only in your bedroom, it goes with you wherever you want and it's actually getting into your brain.
Okay.
And it even picks up what you like talking about and starts advertising to you about that particular thing. So it starts to mess with your head.
Okay. And in terms of mental illness, then, what's that doing then?
All right, if anybody had to invent something that was bad for our mental health, it would be something that would take our eyes off each other, stop us interacting with each other, and interact with something small right in front of you that gets into your brain so that you ignore everybody around you. And that's what we had done, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I'm watching this, it's almost as though you don't exist,
Yeah.
okay? And how does it feel?
I feel alienated. I feel cut off from you and isolated.
Right, so imagine this in the hands of millions and millions of people. In fact, let's go to billions of people
Yeah.
in first world countries, in third world countries, all over the world.
Yeah.
People are engaging with this screen and looking at each other less.
Yeah.
Now, from what we know of the science of what it means to be a human being, we humans are social creatures. We actually love looking at each other. We like touching each other. We like talking with each other. We like being with each other. We like feeling comfortable with each other. This is good for brain chemicals.
Yes. So more of that. Okay. What's number 3?
There wasn't a number 3. I only
Oh,
said
that
there
was
were
3.
2.
Oh, there was only 2.
I told you. I said I'm going to talk about.
I thought you said 3.
I didn't.
I'm sure I heard you say 3.
Yeah, you probably did, but that was probably your rehearsal. Okay?
There you go.
It wasn't today.
I told you there'd be some arguments. We'll have some better ones than that, though, I'm sure. Okay, shake. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Whenever we just shake hands, even
Yeah.
with a stranger,
Yeah.
all right, we feel that we can trust
Yeah.
each other. That's good for oxytocin. Oxytocin in our brain mediates love and trust. When we can't do this, it is very bad for our mental health because we begin to distrust each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking into your eyes is an act of trust. Looking into a screen or going off to make my fame and fortune
Yeah.
and not caring about the people at home
Yeah.
as much
Yeah.
means that I am alienating myself from people.
Yeah.
And we all do it because that's
Yeah.
how our society has developed.
Okay, yeah. So you're talking about this isolation, and we really
I
need
am.
to talk about this in terms
Yeah.
of COVID particularly. But you know what? The mental health rates were rising already before
Yes, they certainly
COVID.
were.
Okay,
They certainly were.
so particularly I saw it with my students.
Yeah, what
So
did you see in
before COVID hit at the beginning of this year, probably about 3 years before that, I get these disability reports. So that's on this, regarding usually physical disabilities, and then students can get extensions. But that was what they were about. Oh, sorry. I'm really nervous. Look at that. That's really bad.
You nervous?
I know. I'm used to being in front of a screen. But anyway, well, in front of a
Okay.
camera.
Quite frankly, what we're used to is having people in front of us.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay?
And we get all of the oxytocin and the serotonin
That's
from
exactly
them.
right.
Yeah, that's why I'm
Yeah.
feeling this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're actually feeling. Let me illustrate, okay? If this is one person and then another person, we like being in harmony because that sort of sounds good and feels good. If we're out of harmony with somebody, we're in conflict, you go, oh, okay, that's conflict.
Yeah.
But when nobody else is there, it's just this.
Yeah.
And it's like deep space.
An
The
abyss.
loneliness
Yeah,
and silence
it's an
of
abyss.
space.
Anyway, I'm going to try that again.
Okay, try it again.
Try it again. All right. So before COVID,
Yeah.
physical disabilities for the disability reports, but then over the last 3 years, I was starting to get a lot more about mental health issues. So anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and things like that. And they were really escalating. Okay. But when COVID hit, oh my gosh, they just went off the charts completely, and the students had so many mental health issues, particularly when they had to do online learning. And I was trying to teach and take care of that at the same time. It's tough. The people are doing it so tough out there.
So everything that I said about mental health, I would have said if COVID were here or not.
Yeah, yeah,
And what COVID has done is just make it worse.
yeah.
We're physically distancing. I don't like the word socially distancing because I
Yeah.
want us still to remain socially engaged
Yeah,
with each
yeah,
other.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
but we do need to physically distance.
yeah.
We're isolating. My gosh, some of you are in lockdown. All right, our hearts go out to you
Yeah.
because lockdown is difficult, and the reason is that you're not seeing people around you. You're not feeling that there are people there that you are a part of in society. And of course, the uncertainty itself just
Yeah.
increases anxiety.
Yeah,
And the loneliness increases depression.
Yeah.
Then wearing masks.
Oh, masks. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, masks do something strange
Yeah, what do they do to the brain?
to the brain.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can't get to the brain. Okay, you've got skin and skull.
You know what I'm talking about psychologically. What do they do to us?
All right, so physically they are a barrier so that we do not get exposed to a virus.
Yeah.
But psychologically, they are a barrier so that with a mask, you cannot see my facial expressions. And we humans like to read each other's expressions. We like to read each other's emotions. In fact, every time you pass somebody in the street, there's this evaluation that goes on. Can I trust this person or not? This all happens in a split second. And usually it's, yeah, I can trust that person. That's another person who's just walking by, okay? Sometimes it isn't, and that's why we're on the alert. But that feeling of, oh, I can trust is actually really good. Now, if you put a mask on, all of a sudden you cannot tell if this person is angry, if this person is threatening. You can just look at some empty eyes. And so you don't get the full picture of their emotions. And we humans, we read each other's emotions and we understand each other's emotions. Even if we don't understand each other's languages, we can always tell when somebody in another country is angry or sad or fearful. We actually can read all of that.
True.
And that helps us stay together because, again, I've got to say it, we're social creatures. We want to be able to help each other out if there's trust there. Otherwise, we will alienate.
Yeah. So, and this is blocking that, you know. And I know when we all went out for the first time and everyone had masks on, it was actually like going into another world in a way.
Yeah.
You know, just like, wow, this is scary. This is another world. And who is this person? And
Yes.
and so what's actually we're doing for our physical health,
Yes.
it's actually affecting our psychological mental health in a bad way.
In a very bad way.
Yeah, really bad.
In a really bad way. In fact, the evidence hasn't come out yet, but the number of suicides, the amount of depression, the amount of anxiety, and people are floundering, okay? They don't even trust other people enough to go out there and get help. And I do need to say, if you are experiencing any of those things, then please reach out. Reach out for some help. Thanks to Stephanie Dubnik in Pennsylvania, there's a new study showing that suicide prevention methods are getting briefer and more effective. So if you need to reach out, do so. There is a hospital that has an intervention that actually helps.
Okay, all right. So you were talking about suicide. Let's talk about that and let's talk about some stats.
All right, before I talk about the stats,
Yeah.
I want to talk to people about what to do if they know somebody who is in danger.
Yeah, in trouble, yeah.
Just in case I forget
Yeah.
later on.
Okay, yeah.
So I just want to give you an ABC of helping somebody out that you think may be in trouble with their mental health. A is ask. How are you doing? Are you okay? How are you feeling? Any question like that. B is be there. Be there to listen. Be there to encourage them to get some help. But be there. Whatever they say, it's okay because you're there. B is for be there. Then C is check in later. Did you go and get some help? Are you feeling okay now? How's it going now? So remember, just A, B, and C for anybody who's in trouble out there.
Oh, when you say check-in, that makes me feel really guilty because, you know, there's always, you get caught up in life, don't you? And I think we forget the check-in.
Yeah.
I know I do. You know, it's that check-in with them, just with a call or a text or...
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Call, text, phone call, anything.
Okay, all right. So should we talk about the big one? Should we talk about suicide and some of the stats? Let's talk about some of the stats. Stats. Time for stats.
Stats. We have some stat music. Actually, no,
Okay,
we don't have any stat music.
No.
I will talk about suicide first because it is October 2020. We are in the midst of a coronavirus crisis.
Yes.
And we have just passed 1 million people in the world dying from COVID. And that is horrible. COVID is real. We do need to get on top of it because it can get much worse than this. That's what we're trying to prevent, a bigger catastrophe. But every year, almost 1 million people in the world take their own lives.
Yeah.
Now, the figure's actually closer to 800,000, but there are a lot of accidents, and we don't know how many accidents there are.
No.
And the shocking thing is that this happens this year, last year, the year before, and I can go back for years and years and decades, and it's always about 800,000 people every year taking their own lives. And we're not putting society in lockdown. We're not stopping economies. We're not saying we've got to do something about it. And look at how many people are dying each and every year.
Especially, but we do something about COVID, but what about suicide? We don't.
Yes. What's more shocking is that suicide is the leading cause of death in the world for people under the age of, between the ages of 15 and 24.
Yeah, and that's really bad.
Just to explain how bad that is, statisticians like to talk about years of potential life lost. So for every person in the world that dies of COVID, there was about 10 years of potential life lost. So if we expect people or hope people to live until they're about 85 and they die from COVID at an average age of about 75, 10 years of life lost. Okay. When it comes to suicide, if you imagine somebody who takes their life when they're 20 and we expect them to live till they're 85,
Yeah.
that is
Oh my
65
gosh.
years of potential life
Wow.
lost.
Yeah.
Okay, so the actual figure for suicide is about 40 years of potential life
Okay.
lost, but that's a lot.
Yeah.
So it is much more of a problem that we are acknowledging
Yeah.
or looking at. USA, 48,000 people a year taking their own lives. That is a 33% increase on the start of the century. That is bizarre. That is terrible. Depression in under 18-year-olds has gone up 63% in a 3-year period.
Yeah.
Anxiety in very young people is going up 20% in a 10-year period. Addictions, 10% of the US population are addicted to something that's a problem. And that figure has gone up 12% in the last 10 years. Self-harm, a lot of young females are harming themselves, and the figure has actually gone up 28% in a 5-year period. This was in Scotland. And it goes on and on and on. Anorexia, borderline, narcissism, phobias, they are all going up, 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 and up.
We've got to do something about this. We do something about smoking. Why can't, I mean, really?
So why is this happening? And why did we win with smoking?
Yeah.
Well, firstly, I chose smoking because it's something that we did win at.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And there's a lot that we're not winning at.
Yeah.
All right. But I also wanted to illustrate that it's personal choice. Okay. If you're actually going to do something about smoking.
Yeah.
And later on, I'm going to give you the one thing that you can do to help prevent mental illness. The other thing is that there is a huge perception in society, and this will become another lie,
Yeah.
that mental illness is due to your genetics.
Oh, yes. Yes, you all hear that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you see rate rises like this
Yeah.
in a very short period of
Yes. Yes.
time, it is not due to genetics, because your genetic makeup and my genetic makeup and your genetic makeup has not changed appreciably in about 60,000 years.
Okay.
And on me that shows sometimes.
You are very chimpish.
I'm
at
very
times.
chimpish
You've got
at
the big
times.
forehead too.
I've got the big forehead.
The chimp forehead.
The
We'll
chimp
talk
forehead.
about chimps later on.
All right, so if it's not due to genetics,
Yeah.
what is it due to?
Yeah, what is it due to?
It is due to things that we are doing in our society.
Such as?
Such as the screen technology that is now taking away our sociability.
Yeah, yeah.
It is due to the mobility. We move around so much that we now live amongst a sea of strangers rather than in familiarity, which we're used to. And the thing is, it's nobody's fault, right? Because we used to be able to take things for granted. Family,
Yeah,
friends,
yeah.
community. We can't take them for granted because they're not there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, as much as they used to be.
Yeah.
Okay, screen technologies, great tool, but we have to put something in place so that we're in charge of the technology is not in charge of us.
Okay, all right. So
Okay.
is it time for your tip yet?
Well, did you want it to be?
I do. We've been going down and down. We're feeling, all these stats and everything.
Yeah.
Give us the hope.
The hope is there is one thing that you can do, and it sounds so obvious, but it is so difficult to do, so we've got to talk about how to actually do it, and it's this. Put people first.
Yeah.
People. People, your family, your friends, your neighbors, your community, people that you even don't like are important in your life.
So true. Yeah.
And decades ago, we could take it for granted.
Yeah.
Now we've actually got to work hard to keep people in our lives. And it does take effort.
Okay.
Do you think a relationship takes effort to keep together? I'm asking her a really loaded question here.
Boy, yes, definitely. Relationships are hard. Very
Relationships
hard.
are
All
hard.
relationships in general are hard. I mean, friendships, partners,
That's right. That's right.
aunts,
That's right.
cousins, everything. It's
That's
hard. Even with the guy down the road that annoys you in the local deli. It's tough. Okay?
Did he annoy you again?
Yes. He might be watching.
And because we have so many choices in our life, we
Yeah.
can choose to go to screen technology, we can choose to watch a movie,
Yes.
we can choose to do so many things. The option to let go of a friendship is just a lot easier to make.
And then we find friends on the internet too, and we think, oh, that's a real friendship, and
We do.
and that's a lie. A lot of it's a lie.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It is actually a lie. We actually think that because we're on the internet, we're more connected. But our studies show, and this will be part of another lie, that the more time you spend on the internet, the more disconnected from people you are.
Okay.
And one real friend is worth 10,000 virtual friends. Spend time with real friends.
Okay. And you're going to give us some practical ways, because this is very enticing. This is very enticing. The screens are so enticing and seductive, and they drag you in and they give you dopamine hits. So what can we do? Give us some practical tips to actually turn to people.
Okay, so to actually turn to people, number one, you actually make a decision to do it. And I know that sounds so damn obvious.
I know, it does, it does.
It actually means sitting and saying, okay, I'm going to look at my life and do what I can to prioritize people.
Yeah.
Because if you leave it to somebody else to decide for you, it's not going to happen. And as you'll find out, it will take effort. We were just talking about our relationship. We have a good relationship, and it takes effort. It takes a lot of effort. Now let's go to family.
Yeah.
Family has become a battleground, a problem for so many people.
Yeah,
and there's always going to be somebody who you don't quite get on with, all right? Battle. Do what you can to remain in contact with somebody. Prioritize them. You just have to get to the point where it's okay, because underneath there is actually love. And a lot of family conflict comes because you love somebody, but it gets frustrated. Something's gone wrong. And that's what we spend a lot of time in psychotherapy doing. Finding out how can we get past what's gone wrong to get on good terms with somebody again.
And it's often outside forces too that eat into that.
Yes, outside forces. Busyness. We all seem to be so busy. But you know what? People last century also only had 24 hours a day.
It's true.
People in the 18th century only had 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So it is not time. It is what we can do with it.
Yeah.
Which brings me to friends. There are so many other options in friends that if you feel that you're not having a good time with a friend, you can go watch a movie, listen to your favorite songs. You can do so many different things that it makes letting go of friends much easier.
Yeah.
So you may have to battle to say, okay, do you want to come over and we will listen to some music together? We will watch some movies together.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Making time when somebody is actually with you in flesh and blood.
Yeah.
And I know this is difficult because we're in COVID time.
But a phone call is still pretty good too. You're still talking then.
Yes, in fact, a phone call is much better than a text or an email.
Yeah, they're impersonal. Yeah.
Because you hear somebody's voice. And in somebody's voice there can be anger, there can be some sadness or some timidity, there can be some hope, but we can read each other's emotions. And that's what it's about in the brain. The brain likes to read other people's emotions and feel connected. All right, I've got to give you a little bit of evidence.
Okay.
About the screen technology.
Yes.
This is thank you to Christian Montag, a researcher who looked at people who are really heavy social media users, users and phone users, computer users all day long.
Yes.
He measured their brain. And he found that there was one area in their brain that was actually shrinking.
Oh.
It was the part that had to do with empathy and compassion for other people. And the thing is that these people weren't using their empathy center. It's the anterior cingulate gyrus for all of you brain nuts that are interested. And so if you don't need it, the brain will take energy away from it and give it somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay. And that to me is frightening.
That's really scary.
Because if your brain empathy area is shrinking, that means less empathy, and it means that you're less able to read other people, and you end up in this vicious cycle.
Yeah, more screen time, less empathy, shrinking, and then you're not as open to other people.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
okay,
right.
yeah.
Okay, so some practical tips for
yes,
the people around you.
Practical tips. What can we do?
If you live in an apartment block, just saying hi to anybody that you pass, because it's become protocol these days to just pass somebody and not say anything, not even look at them.
Yeah, we've got to reach out more with that, you know.
Just a little hi,
Yeah.
just a little bit of eye contact, just a few encouraging words. And if you know somebody else who's lonely, they're feeling like you are. They may be in the same apartment block, they may be a few blocks down the road, but just sort of say, hey, is it okay if we get together? If you can, of course, in this COVID times.
Okay, yeah.
The other thing is to reach out to friends, perhaps from school, somebody that you haven't seen for years, look them up and have a phone call with them, an actual catch up.
Yeah, yeah.
It will actually make you feel good. But you've got to get past that feeling of, they're going to judge me, they're not going to like who I am, what if they're doing better than I am?
Oh, so much, yeah.
And I'll encourage you to get over that, to move past that, to make a connection again with a friend.
Yeah, you have to swallow things sometimes, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That brings me to the guy in the deli. Because you got to swallow your bagels. You got to swallow your prosciutto. You got to swallow your... Anyway.
Yeah.
Just saying g'day, hello to people in stores that you interact with.
Yeah.
It'll actually make you feel good.
Yeah.
See how many people a day you can say hello to.
Yeah.
Or g'day.
Or g'day.
G'day.
How are you going?
That's right.
Yeah, it's very typically Australian to do that.
Yeah, I suppose it is.
Yeah. How are you going? But quite often we say how are you going, it's so set that we don't even wait for the answer.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a social nicety sort of thing.
Yeah, so we'll try to be real.
Try and be real.
Yeah, that's what gets the oxytocin flowing.
Yes.
Oxytocin is the hug drug, the trust drug, the making a business deal and saying we got a deal. That already engenders trust.
Lovely, lovely. Okay, good. So that's the hope.
That's the hope.
All right, good.
Do you like the hope?
I do like the hope. I do like the hope. We need hope. We need hope in
But
this
you need
world
to
at the
work on it.
moment.
You need to work on it. It's hard.
Yeah, you've got to make the choice
Yeah.
to shut down the computer and do all of that. It's tough, but this is what we're going to rage against the mental illness. Yeah.
Are we? Okay, let's
yes,
do
we
that.
are, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so it's actually time. I think we need some more music after all of that because there's some pretty heavy stuff there. Was
More
it?
music?
Was it heavy?
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah, okay, all right. So I think we do need some more music, but there's going to be a little bit of housekeeping first, sorry. Is that all right?
Yeah, just
Let's do housekeeping. Let's do
housekeeping.
housekeeping. Not that kind of housekeeping, actual housekeeping,
Actual
okay?
housekeeping,
All right?
okay.
Yeah, so.
Broom.
No. So if you've got any questions, because I bet there's some questions that have come up for you through this, or you've got any comments on what we've been saying, please write them in the chat now. That'd be great, or when we're playing music, or whenever, if you just want to watch. Because we will answer those questions next week. We're actually going to have a question time at the end of Late Night Lies next week where we answer your questions, your individual questions. So write them down now.
Some of them.
Well, some of them, yeah, actually. May not get through them all. But write them down and we will answer them next week about we're doing what we can to prevent mental illness or anything else that came up about masks, about brain chemicals, about anything, about the lies that are in society.
Lies?
Yeah. Yes. Lies.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. The next thing that I need to talk to you about is please tell people we would like to not be in a void or in an abyss or in the sounds of silence. We would actually love a big community to grow here. So can you please tell people, tell your friends, tell your mother, tell the person down the road, tell the man down at the deli that you don't like very much. That's okay too. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah, just tell them. Tweet, text, whatever. That'd
Yeah.
be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we want a lot more people joining this and joining in the lies. And we will be having more integration and interaction with you as we go along. And the last thing is, and I did promise you a giveaway for everyone that turned up to our first live stream pod show. So, giveaway music. Giveaway music. Yes, lovely giveaway music. Okay, so it is one of Christian's latest books, and the book is 5 Steps to Real Pleasure. That sounds really provocative, Christian.
like that?
I do like that
Oh,
title.
good,
Is it
good.
what I think it is?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
There's a little bit of that.
But we're looking at what we really want. And a
Okay.
little bit of a hint, we actually want people around us that love us. That's
Okay.
one of the things. But there are other things that we want that we used to take for granted. And without these, we will start to feel insecure.
Okay.
And when we've got them in place, then we can go for those transient pleasures
Okay.
that your eyes are telling me about.
So you can actually have it all. All right, that sounds good to me. All right, so if you have actually come onto this pod show through Eventbrite, I will send you a copy of the book. I have all your emails. But if you haven't,
Just don't come on too strong, okay?
will you stop interrupting me? I'm not getting through this. And I've lost my place. Okay, so look, if you haven't, we still need your email address. So if you can DM me on Twitter, on Instagram at Dr. Christian Heim, or even send me an email at drchristianheim.com, then you will need to put your email in so that I can send you an e-copy. It's actually Christian's latest book. And I think that's it. I don't like the housekeeping part because I want some music. I think we need to have some Interstellar.
Some Interstellar?
Yes.
Interstellar is about survival. And I do want to lead in with one story of survival. One of my favorite psychiatrists, Viktor Frankl, an Austrian Jewish psychiatrist who found himself in a bad situation. He was in a Nazi concentration camp. And he saw that this was a really bad situation, and he decided that he would see what it was that would help people survive. He found there were 3 things that helped people survive. One was love. People who had family members, other people waiting for them, had a better chance of survival. The 2 others you can read in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. He survived to tell us how important love was. And that's actually the theme of Interstellar. In Christopher Nolan's film of 2014, humans are on the brink of extinction, and they survive with love showing them the way.
Yeah.
So put people first, put people before screens, put people before your productivity, put people before your need to tell everybody else the way you think life should be led.
Isn't that us? I'm just being honest.
Yes, you are actually.
Okay.
Okay. Put people first to survive. We want you to rage against mental illness. Music by Hans Zimmer. Poetry by Dylan Thomas.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Old men at their end, though they knew that wise men was their light, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight and learned too late that they grieved it on its way. They do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes, could blaze the meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my Father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. We used to look up and wonder about our place in the stars. Now we look down and worry about our place in the dirt. Love is the one thing that transcends time and space. So rage against the silence. Dr. Caroline Heim for Late Night Lives. We're so glad you joined us. We'll see you next week.